Okay, I promised you I'm going to talk to you about the Los Angeles Rams. We all kind of understand what the Rams are with Matthew Stafford as their quarterback. He's kind of dealt with his share of injuries the last couple of years. Last year he had the concussion problem. He had a spinal cord contusion that knocked him out of Week 14, and that kind of ended his season. Week 4 he got hurt against the Indianapolis Colts, hurt his hip. He's kind of played through that right now. So he could get a little banged up, but he's one of the toughest quarterbacks that you're ever going to deal with the way he plays. He's not going to be one of those guys that's going to run away from you. You don't have to worry about that in the pocket. He's struggling a little bit right now in some of these games because his offensive line isn't very good, and that's a huge problem for them. They, if you talk about offensive lines that you faced here the last couple of weeks, this line is one of the ones, not Giants bad, but they've got some issues up front. Steve Avila is probably their best player. He's their brightest spot. He's a rookie from TCU, and he's from Arlington, so good for him on the homecoming game. He played every spot in college on the offensive line, but he's playing guard for the Rams right now. Super powerful through his body. He can be difficult to move if you just try and run through him. I think Zach will attest to that. He studied him quite a bit last year himself. But where he has troubles is with some initial quickness. And this is where I think that maybe that Oso Digizua can give him a little bit of some problems. They're not as good, he's not as good as taking on guys that have the quickness. But again, you try and bull rush him, he's going to sit down on you all day and make that happen. Alric Jackson and Rob Haberstein are the tackles. And if you watched the Steelers game last week, these two guys really struggled with the Steelers because of the speed off the edge. But the more movement these guys get, the harder it is for them to deal with that. And when I mean movement is that initial burst off the line and then maybe a quick left-right or right-left, just a quick little – because what they'll do is they'll set their weight on that outside foot and then they can't adjust back inside. The Steelers, I think, are very similar to how the Cowboys are when it comes to rushing the passer. You got those edge guys, you get the big inside guys, and you got some quickness. And the Steelers gave them some problems when it came down. The team that really gave this team a big problem were the Bengals. The Bengals were just all over Stafford in this game, and it was really a struggle. So Cowboys, I think, could take advantage of this offensive line. I don't think, again, is as good as what the Chargers were the last time out. So that's something if you're kind of looking for matchups. Just look at the tackles. They've got a center, by the way, too, that's left-handed, which is kind of unique. You don't always see that. Coleman Shelton is his name, and he's one of those guys that's much better when he has nobody over him where he can help to either side. But when you put a guy on him, he'll struggle a little bit one-on-one. But that'll be a little bit different because he's a left-handed center. Usually centers are right-handed. So that'll be just a little bit different for those defensive linemen as they look down and try and find the ball and just get off on the snap count right there. Just something that a little scouting note right there. The strength of this team, I think, as far as the offense goes, is their wide receivers. I think with Cooper Kupp coming back with the hamstring injuries, he's back in the mix. He is. It's a pretty impressive trio. What they've been able to do with Puka Nacua. Yeah, he was one of those guys. Like, he's been an absolute steal for what the Rams had done. He took over for Cooper Kupp as he was dealing with the hamstring injuries. It's funny about with Kupp, they still line him up all over the place, but he's really 50-50 on slot or 50-50 on the outside. Majority of his targets have come while in the slot, but the majority of his receptions have come on the outside. So they haven't been using him. They've been using him as lining up in the slot, but where he's catching the football now is on the outside. And Puka has been one of those guys that he's now playing more on the outside is what. So, and what's really impressive about him is his ability, his hands. Both these guys have got outstanding hands. They catch very well in it. No matter where Stafford delivers the ball, Puka can do a good job of getting that football.
Really strong.
He really strong catching the football, and he's a really good route runner. Mm-hmm. So, but the thing that I think you need to keep an eye on is Tutu Atwell is another receiver. Now, they play 11 personnel 93% of the time. That's what they're going to get in. 11 personnel, 1 running back, 3 wide receivers. So they're going to be in that 11 personnel majority of the game. You'll match that with your nickel. That's how you're going to have to probably play them in this football game. But the thing with Outwell is he's the one guy that when he asked to move guys to try and change the strength of formation or create trips or go away, he's the one guy that they move the most. The other guys kind of stay stationary where they are, and then they move Atwell as the guy to create the trips. He works the middle of the field quite a bit. He goes he's very good at making adjusting low catches. Like the Stafford feels pressure, he fires the ball that's in the middle of the field. He fires the ball, and there's Atwell making like a sliding low catch. There was a couple different times he made some really, really nice plays. So to me, the strength of their offense is at that wide receiver spot. They can't protect all that well. They don't run the ball particularly well either. Like when you look at their run situation, stuff like that, it's just
they're pretty banged up too.
Yeah, Royce Freeman and Darrell Henderson are the two guys. Now they had pretty decent games. Both the backs had 60 yards rushing each against the Steelers the last time out. But they're going to hand the ball off inside out of the shotgun. They're going to run it out of the pistol. They're just going to turn and hand. Or then Stafford will get underneath center, and then like the Cowboys do with Dak, they'll just straight hand it off. So there's really not a lot of creativity in the way that they run the football. But Royce Freeman is a big physical guy. He's not as quick as Henderson is. Henderson's a little bit shorter, a little bit more shifty in the way he plays. So they're going to try and attack you with 2 different running backs right now. Now, I'll talk about the tight end here, Tyler Higbee, in this final little bit of time that I have. Higbee is a lot like the modern tight end, and he's much stronger as a receiver than he is a blocker. But they try and use him in the blocker role, and I have no idea why they do that. They just keep saying, okay, you block at the point of attack, you keep blocking, and he can't do it. He just gets thrown around, he gets compressed, he gets knocked on the ground. Where he could hurt you, though, is the way that he plays out of the slot. He'll play tight, in line, but the majority of his good games or good receptions are when he plays out of the slot. So, if you try and cover him with a linebacker or safety that lacks coverability, this guy's going to find a way to win. He catches the ball pretty well. He has a feel for how to get himself open. And the targets the last 3 games have been a little down for him, so he's really right around 3 targets a game. But I wouldn't be surprised if McVay says Dallas doesn't have anybody that we don't think can cover him. I think some teams play him like he's a wide receiver. So you almost have to think about putting a corner. So if you just say, okay, we're going to put a safety or a linebacker that can't really cover, they can mismatch it with you right there. So 3 receivers that are really good, a quarterback that'll stand in there and throw the ball from all arm angles. The offensive line has some issues at the tackle spot, and the tight end is a guy you got to deal with as well. The running game as well too. It's a 2 physical backs. But I think you shut down the Chargers, who have a better line, better back last week with their run defense. I think you could do the same to these guys and really make them one-dimensional.